Hello,
Hello.
hello. We're live. Not Saturday Night Live, it's Thursday afternoon live, but just as fun.
I
Just
was
as
going
fun.
to say we're just as funny.
I think so. Depends on the night. Yeah, we probably are. Um, so I do have to warn everybody, I don't have glare-free glasses, and part of what we're doing today, I have to read some stuff. So I'm gonna have to put on my glasses every once in a while if I can't read it. So,
Also, I have no clue what we're talking about.
no.
We're
She
doing a
knows.
blind react.
Yeah, so she knew I was like gonna talk about certain stories, but these are stories I found online. They're a little bit business, a little bit HR, but things that have went funny in a sense or whatever. And we're gonna talk about what that really means if it happens in a business or maybe if that ever happened to us or things like that. So um, the first one I've never actually done this one, but I've done something similar. So this list is awkward but funny. So I accidentally called my boss dad at an important business meeting. So I've never done that. I have ended business calls with love you though, because it's just a normal reaction. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, well, and I was thinking like I worked with my husband as a contractor as his assistant for
Mhm.
many, many years. And so there's that professionalism when you're on the job site with clients, and then there's that goofy when you don't have anybody watching you.
Yeah.
Um, but when that slips, right, then you're like, "Oh, oops, I forgot that." But calling somebody dad, I think that can either be a compliment or not a compliment.
Right, depending on how you look at it. But I think overall though, I think if you laugh about it at the time or apologize right away, they understand it was a Freudian slip for lack of better terms and it didn't mean anything. And I think that I can say that it happens more often than you think if you get embarrassed by it.
Yep, exactly. And one of the things to always remember as well is if you walk away and leave it as an awkward moment, it's just gonna be awkwarder.
Mhm.
Is that a word?
More
Awkwarder?
awkward? Maybe awkwarder. I don't think awkwarder is a
I
word.
don't think awkwarder is a word. So you really want to just be like, "Oh, my bad. Thank you, sir. I'm gonna go now."
There you go. There you go. So this next one, I don't know. I thought it was hilarious, but I don't know if this would happen often. But so one Halloween, because Halloween's around the corner, one Halloween, as a fourth grade teacher, I dressed up like a witch. I got called into the principal's office where a parent dressed like a football player was yelling at the principal, who was dressed as a Care Bear, about his son's suspension. The situation escalated enough for the police to be called. It was all very awkward. I'm just picturing this, right? And I think instead of like Halloween stories per se, more like those awkward interactions, I think we've all had them where you've walked in a room and you're just like, oh, this is a bunch of people that I wish I was a fly on the wall instead of part of it.
Yep.
Right.
Well, in just those meetings, like, where you're called into the middle of a meeting, and you have to be like, "Okay, well, I don't know what you guys said to each other first."
First. Right. So
Because
do
the
I ask
tension
to be
here is
caught up?
not pretty.
Right. I don't know if I want to be caught up. I don't even know at this point.
Or
So,
even if we all have our work besties, right?
sure.
And you and I technically we're probably work bestie we are.
Yes.
But you know something about something that I have said, and when you end up in that middle of like, "Oh, I know that they don't like you." And you just said what you said. This is not gonna be a this isn't gonna be good. But that really, resonates with, like, how do you react on the spot, right? Where do
Mhm.
you keep your composure? We know I don't have a poker face. How do you keep those things under control, especially like if a client, we talk about small businesses, if a client is irate with you and you know you did nothing wrong, but you're sitting there taking this berating so that they can feel better. Um,
Yes.
and so really that I love that idea of, "Can I just be a fly? 'Cause I don't wanna be a part of the conversation."
Yes, for sure. Um, so, uh, yeah. Oh, I'm picturing a bunch of situations where I wish I was not in that room in my past. So my next one I think is again, it's funny. So completely a different topic. And it's about gifts that we give to people in the office and how we should probably, be wary of that. So at a previous job, my director of recruiting came to me totally freaked out. He said an applicant, by the way, not even an employee, an applicant sent him a strange thank you gift for the interview. It was a custom toaster. It looked regular, but it made toast with the recruiter's picture on it. He stole the guy's picture from LinkedIn, sent away for a custom toaster that made his face on the toast. Needless to say, he did not get the job because that's creepy. Um, and I think we need to be careful of the gifts that we give people. Um, have you ever gotten a weird gift at a job?
Um, we did Secret Santa at one of my jobs for a while, and it was always really nice, but I do know that people were like, if they pulled somebody, they were very awkward about, "Well, I don't know what to get this person," or "I don't even interact," or "I don't like that person."
Oh,
And so one of the biggest things, because when I ran Secret Santa, I was like, "You have to get to know the person." Like, I'm not gonna give you tips or tricks on what this person wants, right? Because everybody
right. And
wanted that, like, "Give me what do you want" list, and that makes it less fun.
yep.
But it really does call into play, like, how do you do a gift that works? And I'm somebody who isn't a candle person or a bath bomb person, and that's a typical gift for a woman, right? "Oh, I'll
Sure.
just get you smelly bath bombs." Um, I think that if you're going to gift somebody something, you do have to have some semblance of who they are, before you can do that.
Yeah, and I think in this situation, like if you are interviewing somewhere and you want to send a thank you for the interview, and you think like an email is not personal enough or something like that, a handwritten card is perfectly fine,
Correct.
right? And people actually like to get mail because we don't get mail that isn't bills anymore or coupons we'll never use. Um, so if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna send a thank you, please don't make a toaster for someone, please just send a handwritten thank you note. If you want to go above and beyond, do like a canister of candy or a canister of nuts, something that if they don't like it, they can share with people in the office.
Yeah, a
Um,
nice little gift
so
basket is always great, but
sure.
when you're taking people's personal faces and putting it on things, it's a little awkward. Like, Lydia does great business to business baskets. My logo,
Yes.
your logo, each coffee mug, great idea.
Well, this is going to sound crazy though. Like for her baskets, and throw her link in there because whenever we talk about somebody, I like to throw their link in there. So with the baskets though, don't send a basket just for an interview, please. If you get hired, feel free to send a basket, okay? So that is when you should send a basket. "Thank you for hiring me. I look forward to starting in 2 weeks."
Yep,
You get my point? Like, that would be ideal, but don't send a basket, in my opinion, just for an interview. Number 1, you're gonna lose lots of money because if you have 10, 15 interviews and you start sending out baskets, Lydia's gonna make a lot of money, but your bank account's gonna hate you. Um,
exactly.
so
And a nice thank you card is an easy thing, like you said. Thank you for meeting with me. I really appreciated our interview. That's a great first step and a great second impression that you can make.
Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, we need to first impressions, second impressions, all of those things are super important, and I completely agree. Um, that's interesting. I can't imagine stealing somebody's photo off of their LinkedIn and making a toaster. Okay,
Yeah.
so this next one, I think we I actually have a problem with this. I would never do this, but I do have a problem with this one. So, I had a candidate put down his drug dealer as a reference for him. The dealer's name was Opie, I'm not even joking, and when the application asked what the relationship was, he actually listed drug dealer. So, if you have a hard time finding references, number 1, don't use your drug dealer. Um, Number 2, ask people in your circle. You would be surprised how many people are willing to give you a reference or a recommendation. We actually just kind of talked about this yesterday in a different meeting. What do you think about that, Brittany? What do you think about reference asking?
Well, I think if you have a drug dealer now with all of the shopping that you can do, then we have bigger
Well, hey,
problems.
you're in Colorado. It's been legal there for a hot minute.
We
So,
we no longer need that middleman. But when you are doing those references, it really is an important professional reference. Even if you worked for your aunt and did yard work for 2 years for your aunt consistently, right? And obviously, probably your aunt didn't pay you, but you consistently showed up, you consistently helped her with her work, you did those things, or your neighbor, or,
mhm,
if for instance, I do web design from time to time, so I can pull some of those people who I just did a freebie or I helped them. Look at the people who you helped and have them as a reference because they know the skills and the qualifications that you have.
yeah, yeah. And don't be afraid to in my case, because I am a consultant, and sometimes the businesses that I work for, um, it's awkward to say, "Will you give me a reference?" Like, actually write me a reference letter or something like that for another job. But there's a lot of people in your network that can see what you do, can see the positive things that you're bringing to your career, to other people's careers, to your circle in general. Don't be afraid to ask anybody for a reference. And again, it's the same concept as anything. You never know if you don't ask. And the answer is always no, in that case. So references have always been interesting to me. So I'm starting to apply to some universities and colleges to be an adjunct professor. And some of them are just like, send your resume, answer these questions, that type of thing. And it's, a 10-minute application. We'll call you if you fit the position. And then other ones, it's like I had one that asked me for 5 references. And I'm just like, I could probably come up with 5 references, but why do you need that? Like, like what what do you think I'm gonna find any bad references? Like, I'm gonna submit somebody that writes a bad letter? No, I'm gonna find 5 people that write good letters. And that's why in a lot of businesses, references are going by the wayside anyways. Um, but if they do ask for them, take note of the story, don't list your drug dealer. So, yeah. All right, I had my next one here, I think. Uh, everyone, that's not it. No, I lost it.
Oh no.
I know.
And we have a viewer on YouTube. I just want to
We
say
do?
hello. Yes.
My
We
YouTube
do.
or your YouTube?
My YouTube, it might be my mama. I don't know. But we have one
Um,
viewer on YouTube, and I know with YouTube there's not comments. So, um,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, so I just wanted to say hello and acknowledge that while you were looking for the next. We always love seeing our viewers and really acknowledging you guys because it's really great to have somebody around while we're here.
It is. It is. Um, okay. So, let's see here. That one, I found a really good one, and now I can't find it on the page that I want to talk about. So after a late night, my only goal the next morning was to rally through the workday. We had an all hands meeting at our small startup, and just my luck, the only seat left was next to the CEO. Without even trying, I fully fell asleep with my head on the table during the presentation. Eventually, I woke up and I found the endless stream of comments on and pictures on Slack of everyone trying to hold back their laughter during the meeting. So at least I provided some comic relief. Um, so first of all, don't fall asleep in meetings. However, the way I look at this is a very cool place to work. Okay. Because obviously the CEO knew what happened. Everybody took pictures. Everybody made, in a sense, a joke about it. Nobody fired him. Nobody yelled at him. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? Um, Now, I don't think that you should fall asleep at work. I say that again. But I think having a place that understands that some things happen is kind of a cool place to work. What do you think?
I'm the person that would wake you up.
Okay.
So I know that it starts with we all had a late night or whatever, so everybody's like, "Oh, well, I'm the person who, for me, I would be like, "Hey, dude, like, wake up," right? That way they, 1, don't miss the presentation. 2, we don't have a whole table of people who are, making taking pictures and making jokes. Um, I get your perspective on it, but I also understand the perspective of I fall asleep, I do. I fell asleep easily. So for me, I would love for somebody to just nudge me and be like, Come on, man, stay up." Right?
Mhm.
So for me, that's where I see that, but that's because I'm the person that will fall asleep in the meeting if I'm exhausted. So I think that it's fun to be able to make the jokes, but then, okay, everybody, let's wake them up and let's get back on to track for sure.
Yeah, and I think it was weird that they just let him wake up on his own in an empty room. But maybe that was the one punishment, wake up and realize what happened. And then maybe you won't do it again, I guess. But I think having a good culture at an office is kind of an amazing thing. So I've worked virtual or hybrid most of my career, and those that I even had like office jobs, I still traveled a lot. So it was always interesting on how you built that camaraderie with people. Um, and I think I was lucky to have really cool offices in that regard. I mean, obviously, I'm working virtually. Nobody cares if I take a nap at my desk, but being able to have that connection with people and being able to have that camaraderie, I think, is pretty cool. And I know in a virtual environment, it can be hard.
Yeah.
Um, and with that, I want to talk a little bit, not with this per se, this concept of falling asleep, but building that camaraderie where you can laugh and have some of that with a virtual environment. I think you should talk a little bit about community and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, we kind of touched base on this a little bit earlier inside of one of our conversations.
Yeah.
When you are building, so for me, I'm an accountability business coach, so I have a lot of different clients who have different backgrounds and different culture. But when I bring them all together to support each other, they're able to give each other different outlooks and views.
Yeah.
So when I'm able to say, okay, here's my office, it's open all the time. Anybody can come in, they can work together. We all know if we can't go to mine, if like mine, nobody's in mine, everybody knows they can go to Jenny,
Yep.
who also has an open office. So we really go back and forth to help support each other's communities. But we do that because when you work by yourself, it's hard. Sometimes, depending on who you are, some people are very good just closed and just doing what they need to do. And then some people, they need to have a little bit of a distraction. Um, I'm finding out that I need less distraction. But those different things that you manage is how you manage. But when you're working by yourself, or if you're building a community and you have different clients, and if you keep, depending on what you're doing, if you keep everybody separated, then they don't have a buy-in for what you're selling, right? They don't have a reason to promote, even if they are working with you, they don't have a reason to promote it. Because what is it in it for them? Yes, you're helping them, or yes, you hey, let's take the show for example, right? What
Hmm.
is the buy-in for having a show on a channel if you don't have camaraderie? What is the buy-in for being with a coach or a consultant if you don't have other supports? Because as great as it is to have one-on-one clients, they're going to need help when I'm not available. So if they can at least have a conversation that then I can come back to and help them again, that's a great space to be. So having a community of people who love your knitting, right, in Facebook or Skylar Network, that's my new favorite place. But having a community where you can give everybody the same information, they can ask questions, and then they know, oh, this person already asked. You have that around there and they can work together on it. I love that idea.
Yeah, yeah. And building building that camaraderie is so key to being able to happily work from home. I know a lot of people were forced to do it for the first time during COVID, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, this is never going to work, da da da. Um, but once you realize that with Slack and, you know, uh, we'll use Skylar Network, but even, with LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that, people were able to communicate in new ways and different ways and kind of build relationships that they didn't think they could before.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is key to moving forward. Right now, I don't want to like end up being in the movie Idiocracy at some point where nobody talks to anybody except through a screen. But uh, it is a key thing to moving ahead and living in the world of technology that we have now.
And I
So
think that's a key point, right? Use the technology to support the community.
yeah, exactly. Um, So now we're going to get into I like this one because it's talking about interview etiquette, and I know we talked a little bit about a recruiter, but this is more on the other side. So uh, I was attending an engineering school career fair, and an applicant came to their pre-scheduled interview dressed head to toe as a clown, full makeup and costume. The company, though, had been under a microscope for interview bias, and I had to conduct a full interview. So I don't know if this was a test. Does that make sense? Because their company had been, their words, under a microscope for interview bias. Um, but it is kind of funny if somebody walked in dressed like that. But this leads me to two things. Number one, what's interview bias? And we're going to talk about that. But number two, what's the proper way to dress for an interview in today's day and age? Um, and so, interview bias is when you judge somebody simply how they look, right? Because they haven't spoke yet, right? So somebody shows up on the screen or somebody shows up in the office and um and you immediately judge them based on their look. And sometimes that's because maybe they can't afford the $500 suit, right? Maybe they only have one pair of black heels and that's what they chose to wear and they're a little scuffed up. But that doesn't mean they won't be good at the job. So interview bias is judging people based on how they look before the interview even starts. Let's start with there first. What do you think? Do you think you've ever judged somebody in an interview or felt judged in an interview?
Um, So I was raised with DECA. The very first thing you learn is you show up a business professional at any interview, you show up business professional picking up a resume, even at McDonald's or
Yeah.
the Dollar Tree. You show up in a professional mindset because the first impression. So when you think about interview bias, I there's a difference, right? Yes, I'm going to automatically, if you show up in your street clothes, that you dress for what you want.
Hmm.
If you show up in your street clothes and you tell me, "Hey, I I didn't have time to go to get clothes," or this and this and this is what happened, and that's why I'm in my dress, and that's why I'm here. When you explain to me what is happening, then I'm able to then understand it. If you tell me, but then again, I'm not looking at your scuffed heels. I'm just looking that you showed up in heels, right? I'm just looking that you showed up and you did your best to dress as nicely as you possibly could. And so if I feel that you attempted to look like a business professional, if
You
that's
put
the
some
case.
effort into it.
Yeah, exactly. You
Right.
combed your hair, you didn't wear jeans. Those are all big things that I would take into consideration. But that's the point of the interview, guys, is how you show up.
Yeah, and I always say, it's one step above what is required at that company. So if the company requires three-button shirts and khakis, then you should wear a shirt and tie to the interview. If, like, if you're interviewing at McDonald's because they have, uniforms and everybody's dressed the same, you could do khakis and a three-button shirt,
Mhm.
right? It's one step above what is required, in my opinion. And it's always taking that time, brush your hair, shave if or trim, you know what I mean, things, all of that. And don't show up dressed as a clown. That would
Yeah,
be the lesson of the
exactly.
day.
But also
Um,
just remember that there is well, and, you brought up a great point of what if you can't afford it. I know of several shelters and several different places across many different cities that help people who can't afford them, and they specifically have clothes to help you dress professional. So if that is the case, go to those places because we want you to have that job. We want you to not have that interview bias, which is what the interview's for. So it's a really horrible catch-22, and I know that. However, if you're going, I don't care if you show up in the same outfit every day to work, right? You're showing up with what you have as you have it and as your paycheck, those are things. And that kind of goes into if it's a uniform, do we provide it? Do you pay for them? If they're not uniforms, then you have to, there's a lot that we could go into. How does that look?
yeah,
And as business owners, it's important. How do you want your team to show up? So it is a very important thing, but it is also an important thing to understand that if you're hiring somebody super qualified that might not have the funding to show up the way you want them to, maybe help them by putting that into your budget. How can I help my staff show up the way I want them to? How can I help people raise their self-esteem by helping them show up in different clothes? We had a conversation. I need a different outfit.
oh, well, yours was a whole different thing. But yes, we all need to up our game every once in a while, right? And if a business can help up the game, I think that they should try to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I have about 10 others, so I think we need to do this next week. And maybe you find few and we'll do the opposite reaction thing. But tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Brittany. I am a business accountability coach, and I really set business owners and entrepreneurs on the right path to get where they're going.
I love it. And my name is Sarah. I'm with Off the Beaten Path Consulting. I'm an HR fixer and a business strategist. Our logos and everything and websites are on the screen, so go check us out.
What is our tagline?
Oh, our tagline. I don't know. Oh my gosh, did we have one?
We have a whole website of taglines, but I'm closing this out. Love you all. Thank you. Bye bye.